There she is. Yep. There's Elanor.
Eleanor's Memphis' nemesis. It's a car that he's been trying to steal ever since he began stealing cars.
And unfortunately for Memphis, it's on the list of cars that have to be stolen. It's an American classic.
We're gonna get through this.
It's an enormously fast car. It's a very rare car. And it's a very sexy looking car. Those are all things we wanted.
So what it comes down to is this culmination of the final car in the film that has to be stolen, and he's got it. And now it's like the heat's on because it's the last car.
All right, easy way the hard way, Reigns. Easy way the hard way.
Once you say, well, let's start in the city, then you look for the opportunities and the obstacles you're going to encounter naturally when you're shooting in the city.
That sign said do not enter.
Yeah, you noticed, huh?
Jesus!
Keep your pants on.
Tried to steer clear of the little old ladies crossing the street, the guys with the big picture windows. So organically, it just became hairy turns against red lights, about going counter to traffic that's coming your way, about encountering police who are sort of closing in on the chase from left, right, and center and behind you. All of it was done on location. That was a necessity. And as we looked around the city, we saw an alleyway we liked, and what if he gets blocked and stops just a few feet from that garbage truck? Now he has to go backwards, and everybody goes, oh yeah, well, that's kind of good. And then the thinking was, Castlebeck is behind him not that far. We wanted to suggest that these two guys are sort of going head to head as if it were a game of chicken. But all of a sudden, at the last moment, you see that he swings into this parking garage. So we said, okay, he'll go backwards through the parking garage. He'll back out onto Main Street backwards.
That particular sequence, we had somewhere upwards of 20 different vehicles that were actual stunt vehicles, and then precision drivers on top of that.
Like sheet metal you're driving around, so it had to be choreographed and rehearsed and practiced.
As the Porsche comes out, this car here will kind of do a little swerve, maybe that way like that, kind of slide to a stop.
Chuck Pacherny and Johnny Martin, both their contribution was invaluable.
It comes down to your stunt coordinator and your AD and your director working in conjunction with one another to make sure that everything they do is well rehearsed. There's no oops or ah-ohs in there.
My whole philosophy was the audience encounters these things as the driver does. There wasn't going to be any sort of foreshadowing, or telegraphing of what was coming around the bend.
For the bus crash, we deliberately set it up so there was no setup on film that you knew this was going to happen. We had the different intercuts of the lead up to it with Nick and the stunt driver driving down the alleyway. Then we see a POV from the police car's angle as Nick goes through. Then we intercut to the actual crash. The police car was put on what they call a 2-to-1 cable. We had a cable from the bus to the police car with a pulley in the street. So if the bus was traveling 30, that meant the police car was doing 60. It's a double the speed type of thing. So the bus was actually pulling the police car for the impact. That way we knew it was going to happen in the exact same spot. So it enabled Dominic to put his cameras in a position to capture everything on film.
Then I segued from there to a river basin, and that's when we thought we'd bring the helicopter in to pursue him.
Air One, we're over the pursuit.
We took liberties there, because ordinarily what would happen would be with the chopper, we'd just sort of spot the little sort of ant of a vehicle, in the basin, but it wouldn't have been too terribly exciting to kept the helicopter at 500 feet, so we brought it down to about 20 feet. The pilots were terrific, and it was a little hairy because they had to come in under a lot of wires. And actually, if you notice, they were traveling under the overpasses as well. So it took a little coordinating, but that was the only way to sort of keep the choppers in the frame.
Suspect has increased speed to 120.
The thinking was, let's have Nick hit the nitrous switch and really sort of kick the car into gear and get going, simulating 100, 120 miles an hour. But when we were shooting down in the river basin, it was flooded, and it was very dangerous down there. And so the drivers couldn't actually go more than 65, 70 miles an hour, so we ended up under cranking the cameras. Normal speed, normal frame rate is 24 frames a second, so if you're shooting at 16 frames a second, when it's played back in the theater, its increased speed is about 40% faster.
You have to make the audience believe they're actually living that movie, that they're actually going, 100 miles an hour. We want to make you feel like you're there.
He's gone.